Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this session, which is all going to be about LinkedIn. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that everyone in the room is actually on LinkedIn. Anyone want to admit that they're not? No. Okay. So, a brief history of LinkedIn. It came into being back in 2003, set up by 5 guys in the HR space in America in May. So it's literally just had its birthday. About 6 months after it was launched in America, it came across into the UK, and about 4 years later, they set up an office in the UK as it started to grow and grow and grow. Other dates, around about 2012, it got adopted by larger companies. It was originally just an online CV. We all put our CVs up on there and we just used it for finding jobs. But as it grew, it became a larger and larger website, a larger and larger database, in which case the larger companies started using it for marketing and other things. And like most things in life, it started to filter down through other companies. Yeah, then in 2016, Microsoft got interested and spent £26.2 billion on purchasing LinkedIn. At that point, they made some changes. I'm not convinced all the changes were good, but they made some changes nonetheless. And the last real notable date is around 2018. It had grown to such a beast that a lot of the digital marketing agencies who deal with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and all that could no longer handle the complexities of LinkedIn, and therefore it was no longer deemed to be social media, but obviously it has an element of social media. As of today, I'm waiting for the up-to-date figures, but back in March there was about 812 million people in the world on LinkedIn. They claim 200 countries. There's only one slight issue with that. There are 200 registered countries in the world. 3 new accounts are opened every second, so it's continuing to grow at a rapid pace. We're more obviously interested maybe in the UK. There's about 33.25 million user accounts. I'm not going to say they're all actually active. Some of them are a bit dormant. So, when you joined, back whenever it was, were you sent a manual on how to set it up? If you say yes, I'll be amazed. No one ever has. And also, who here has heard of the LinkedIn algorithm? No one? Okay, 1 or 2 hands. The LinkedIn algorithm basically affects how they handle all your activities on the platform. So every time you do a post and you comment on things and things like that, the algorithm will look at it and decide what to do with it. So it's like the rule book on LinkedIn. Big update last September, and again, I can guarantee no one in this room was sent a copy of the latest rule book. So you're all on a big platform. You never had a manual. Also, you never get a copy of the rule book. So today I'm going to try and help, mainly with accountants. Yeah, billing hours. We're all interested in billing hours. It's the company's directors, the individuals. It's one of the driving factors. And used properly, LinkedIn can attract people and can give you those billing hours. So we're trying to find some help. So being found is the first thing. As I say, it's a very large database. It's also a very large website, so it's searchable. What happens though is people search very generically. So if you're an accountant, they might just put accountant in there. And I'd hate to think of the amounts of people who come up in that particular search. But also, in this day and age, we suffer from what I call the 7-second syndrome. That's actually a lie. It's less than 7 seconds. But it's the amount of time people will spend looking at your web page, which is what your LinkedIn profile is. So if you don't engage them in that 5 to 7 seconds, mainly because they may have done a very poor search, for those that are young enough, they're going to Tinder you, they're going to swipe you, they're going to look at the next person. So if you don't engage them in those 7 seconds, you might be the best accountant on the planet, but they're never going to scroll down far enough to find out. So what do we need to do? What happens in those 7 seconds? Well, initially, as I say, there's a generic search. So they might put 2 words together. It might be senior accountant or accounts partner. But again, put that into the search engine on LinkedIn, you're going to get a very large result. First thing they come across at the top of your profile, regardless of it being on an app or on the desktop, it's the banner. Just below that is your headshot. The headline that sits directly underneath your name. Then the about section. The first three of those they can see without touching the keyboard or swiping their phone. So the first three are very crucial to get people engaged in those 7 seconds. And as I say, unfortunately, you're probably in a very large pool with lots of other people. So let's tackle the first thing. Get that top of your profile engaging. Get people to stay around longer than 7 seconds. As I say, this is it. This is one of mine from a little while ago. Yeah, the banner at the top, headshot, headline, and if they get to it, your about section. So, who in the room is happy that theirs will pass the 7 second syndrome? If you are, yeah, good man. I like it. Yes, yeah. That's what we're aiming for, because we're probably very good at what we do, but unless we engage in those 7 seconds, then I'm afraid it's no good. So that banner needs to tell a story. Okay. I won't ask this question. Those of you in the room that have got the standard LinkedIn banner, go and change it when you get home tonight, because it's one of the worst things you can do, because it tells people absolutely nothing. There it is, nice pastel, very pretty colours, doesn't tell anyone a thing, and we're very visually orientated. 2/3 of the UK population, yeah, we like visual things. And very large visual area right at the top of your profile, and with nothing in it, you're missing a massive opportunity. What I say to people is, I see a lot of profiles, I look at it all the time, probably looked at about 250,000 of them over the years. Got some lovely images. If you're tax, you might have some pound signs up there, or calculators, etc. Or people have some very just nice images. It doesn't tell me exactly what it is that you do and what services you can offer. So in this particular case, a combination of images and also words will just confirm, because I don't think a picture paints 1,000 words. You might need to add a couple of keywords around what it is that you specialise in. Put them on the banner. So in this particular case, if you're looking for someone who's involved in voiceover and in those particular fields he's given you, then you're in the right place. You found the right person, and the likelihood is you're then going to scroll down. Professional headshots only. This is one I have a lot of fun with various different people. Now, I'm not saying you need to go and pay a professional photographer, but I suggest it's a very good idea to get a branding shoot for your company anyway, and when you do, get some headshots done. But these little smartphones in our pockets these days, the cameras on them are half decent, and they are probably virtually okay as a temporary measure. So these are examples of headshots that just don't work. Anyone want to tell me why I don't like the one on the left-hand side? You can laugh, but yeah, two things there. The gentleman said you can't really see him, and he's way too casual. We are going to view this 65% of the time on a mobile device, so it's a small screen. We are not going to be able to identify that gentleman. His features will be too small. Yeah, it's also casual. Would you want to deal with this person? My interpretation, this is probably taken at a wedding, at a hotel, in the garden, when he's had a few drinks. And also, for me, being slightly old-fashioned, I do not like the hands in the pockets. That also puts me off. The one in the middle, that's coming towards, but mobile phones. Yes, they were involving mobile phones, but again, it's not a headshot. People want to see it. And the last one, I've had it in here for years because I enjoy it. Anyone recognise anything on there? It's well known. No, they're not an optician, by the way. The TV buffs, film buffs, Galahad. Kingsman series, main character, also wore glasses. The person whose profile I found it on, who I know, was not in the film. Had nothing to do with the film. It's completely and utterly irrelevant. So what we're looking for is something along the lines of this. The one on the right-hand side, yes, that's been taken professionally. The one on the left has been taken on an iPhone. But ultimately, they're both giving the right information. And that is, You can see their features. I can tell you they're both up to date because I know these gentlemen. I look at Zoom screens and I look at people's profiles at the same time, and sometimes I go, am I talking to the same person? They're out of date, they're old. About every 2 years you should update your profile picture, certainly as you get older and you change. Plain background just brings the features out, and actually the smile. It's quite nice to have a smile on your face, because who wants to deal with a miserable bugger? No one. So have a smile, look as though you're approachable. And then the last thing is a little bit cultural, and that's if you have your body, so Mark's got his body turned in, which will be in towards the centre of the profile. If you turn it the other way, you're disrespecting people in certain cultures, and you've lost them straight away. So head on or slightly turned into the centre of the profile. But again, they're headshots, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, how many people here have just got their job title at the company they work at on their headline? Yeah, no one's admitting to it, but I bet a few of you have, because this is quite standard. This is what it was back in the old days. But LinkedIn has changed, and like most things on LinkedIn, they didn't bother telling you that they had actually changed. So this is quite common. Regional Director at the Alpha Group International. Okay, so what does the Regional Director actually do, and what do the Alpha Group International do? I don't know. What we need is something along the lines of telling people what it is that we do. You've got 220 characters now, so you can do more than that, just that one line. The reason I suggest that you do that is, again, it's part of that top of your profile that people will see without having to scroll. They've given you 220 characters. I suggest it's a good idea to use them. But also, as you move around LinkedIn and you pass comments on other people's, again, you leave this behind so people can see it. So I suggest it's definitely worth using all 220. Recently I changed this. I always used to say that the first 3 lines of your about section were important because of the little ... see more at the end of it. Well, in February this year they changed it to the end of the 4th line. What a massive improvement that was. Made absolutely no difference unless of course you were using it. But it puts the about section into 2 distinct halves. That top half, where there's a ... see more at the end of it. For them to see the rest of your about section, they have to click on it. And guess what? They've changed the criteria on the about section, and it's gone to 2,600 characters, so it's quite a long piece. So if you want them to see that piece, you've got to make sure those first 4 lines are going to engage them. So talk to them, use. Every time I see a load of eyes in the about section, that kind of puts me off, because ultimately most people viewing your profile are using that horrible acronym, what's in it for me? They don't really care about you at this particular stage, so talk to them, use your language. So, yeah, how many eyes have you got in your first 4 lines? Any more than 1, you might have to rewrite it. So yes, your about section must inform, as I say, it's 2,600 characters, but also we want to make sure it's readable. Lots of short, sharp paragraphs, so nice and easy to read. I've seen 2 or 3 recently where it's like the whole 2,600 is like 2 paragraphs. I didn't get to read the end of that because I fell asleep. So make it short and sharp. But also, use some old-fashioned technology, use bullet points. Highlight those areas of speciality that you have that will separate you from others. What about some benefit statements? Why should they be using you over all the other people they may have looked at? Good stuff to put in there. And then 2 really useful pieces, because you're talking to me about you as I read your profile. Drop in a bit of social proof right in the middle that says, yeah, I worked with this guy, he did a fantastic job for me. Now, in the eyes of someone who doesn't know you, that's giving you social proof, and they're far more likely to believe what you're saying about yourself at this particular stage. And then I get down to the bottom when I read people's profiles, and there's no call to action, no next steps. Well, people have taken 2 or 3 minutes to read that piece that you've spent a little while crafting, but you're not told them what to do next. The trouble is, if you don't tell people what to do, guess what they do? Nothing. Okay, so tell them what to do. And it can be quite simple. Yes, we have limited editing facilities in LinkedIn. In this particular section, it is poor, but you can turn the caps lock on. And I just say to people, along the bottom, put in whatever is your next step, your call to action. I tend to use email because I know that people tend to use email. I don't like it. But the trouble is, if I put my phone number in there and they ring me now, I'm not going to answer it. So you can use your phone number if your phone number is answered by a human being. If it's answered by a system of press 1 to be cut off, press 2 to be on hold for 4 hours, don't use it. Okay? But you put that call to action at the bottom. If you want people to actually take action, then tell them what action it is you want them to take. But just below your About section, there's a features section. You might not all have it. It came in, and again, LinkedIn didn't announce it, it came in. At the top of your profile, right underneath your name and your headline, there's an Add Profile button. Something that's worth having a little look at. Go and discover what that says. And in there, it will be Add to the Features section. 3 items are shown, but you can add a lot more to it and shuffle them around. I strongly suggest in here that you put a link to your website, because the engine on LinkedIn will take the person away to that website, and when they've finished, it brings them back into LinkedIn. If you put a link elsewhere in free text, it takes them away, they don't come back. LinkedIn get awfully upset with you. But this way, they're giving you the engine to do it. You can also put documents in there, you can pin some of your posts and some of your articles in there, you can add media, and if you're really brave, you can add video in there as well. Video is really powerful, so it's something definitely worth considering. So, does your About section use all those 2,600 characters? Again, not many people I look at does, because they weren't told. Many are stuck at the 2,000, but the 600 characters potentially in there you can use just to give your story to other people. Yeah, be active or fade away. Consistency on most things is vital, certainly is on LinkedIn. We have various different ways of being active on LinkedIn. The most common is the LinkedIn post. Okay, that's the thing that most people do. Probably 98% of people's activities are around posting or commenting on people's posts. You can get involved in writing articles. It's LinkedIn's version of a blog. It has extremely poor reach, but there are ways around it. But it can position you as an expert in the field, so don't dismiss it completely. You can also put in there a downloadable document. So when you go into your posts and you start constructing, you'll see a series of icons across the bottom. The third icon in says Documents. When you click on that, it opens up and says, where is this document? Points you at your desktop, go and find it, insert it. The really good thing about that is if you insert a document into it, it allows the viewer to download it directly onto their desktop as a PDF. Okay, they haven't got to muck about saving it anywhere. Also, you may have heard about the word reach on LinkedIn. How far will your posts get out there? Well, add a document and they'll give you 60% extra reach by doing it, because not many people do. So it's definitely worth considering doing that. And also, yeah, discussions in groups. Groups are something that one of the victims of Microsoft's takeover. They kind of were cut off at the knees. They are no longer as strong as they used to be. But they're coming back. And I still believe it's worthwhile, when you find a group that's active, to start adding to posts and start actually putting your own posts in there as well. So how often do you post? Another good question. Well, during the pandemic, it was every 3 seconds for a lot of people. It seemed to be the case. I just was bombarded by post after post after post. Unfortunately, the LinkedIn algorithm was rubbing its hands together, because if you post more than once on LinkedIn in a day, the LinkedIn algorithm will kick in. And what it will do is it will slow or completely dismiss the reach of your first post while it looks at the second one. So if you put 2 out in a day, you're risking ruining the reach of the first one. But actually, if you use posts 2 or 3 a week, it's probably more than enough for it to do. But there's 2 words I use when I do my training: informational and discussional. Don't even know if they're in the dictionary, I don't care. But if you make your posts informational or discussional or both, we're about engagement. We want people to engage with it. So if you do that 2 or 3 times a week, you're probably still answering some of the questions that people ask and some of the comments 2 or 3 days later, so you haven't got to post every day. I mentioned it earlier, social proof. There is their own social proof section. Recommendations stuck right down the bottom, nearly at the bottom of LinkedIn's actual platform. But I feel it's definitely something that you should be doing. Now, having been looked at profiles for the last 15 years, I can tell you now that the average person that I look at has between 3 and 5 recommendations, and they're 2 to 3 years out of date. So someone comes onto your profile, has a look at it, gets down the bottom, and you've been doing no good work for the last 3 years, according to you, because you've not got any recommendations up there. How do you think that they're going to look at that? Whereas if you've got 10 recommendations and the last few are within the last couple of months, they're going to make the judgment that you're currently doing some good work. And actually getting to 10, that really high bar that I've just set you, puts you in the top 10% on LinkedIn for recommendations. Very, very high bar to set you. So yeah, go and reach that bar. It really will help you. This particular person's got 301, okay? They've got the whole idea, they've been doing it for many years. All the recommendations they've got that shows, and it's now 3, it used to be 2, are all recent. So again, anyone landing on this profile will think, wow, 300 plus recommendations, and they're all the last 3 are all recent. They currently must be doing some good work. They're definitely one certain person I should be getting engaged with. Just make sure that you reach out to people on a regular basis. Now, I know that there are some restrictions. Yes, you've got to make sure that they are a first-line connection, and I can guarantee not everyone you ask will actually reply. That's not because they don't want to. It's basically because they've forgotten. So I tend to send out at least 3 times more than what I need. So I'm always looking for 3 a month to make sure it's nice and fresh for any viewers looking at it. So I've got to send out 8 or 9. It's a habit, you've got to get into it. But as I say, you've got to start somewhere. So if you've got none, get it underway and get it started. Aim for that 10. Now ask yourself, when did you last ask for a recommendation? So put it on your to-do list. Definitely worth doing. So yeah, make a list of 3 people you can ask next week. You know, the likelihood is that one of those at least will come back and give you a recommendation. It's a start. Definitely worth doing. Okay, some additional nuggets. Who's viewed my profile? From the home page, on the left-hand side, it's got this little who's viewed my profile. Now, I get a lot of people saying, oh, do I need to upgrade to premium because you get the last 90 days and a lovely pretty graph when you're a premium user? My response is, no, you don't have to. You just got, again, you've got to form a little habit. And the habit is nipping onto who's viewed my profile twice a day. And what we're looking for in here, I've highlighted it here. We're looking for people that are second line connections, okay? First line, you know them, you're connected to them. Third line, you're not allowed to, but if you're a premium user, you can send them an email. That doesn't work, so there's no point. But what I do, in this particular case, I go and look at these 2 gentlemen's profiles to see if there's someone I would like to connect with. They've looked at my profile, there must be a reason for it. So I will reach out and try and find out what that reason is. I do that regularly. I say I go in there twice a day. Sometimes I go in there and there's nothing to be done. I've done it. But by doing it in the morning and afternoon, I'm capturing all the latest stuff. Now, I am a premium user, as you can expect. Someone who's viewed my profile 90 days is absolutely no use to me whatsoever. Actually, I say that 2 or 3 days ago, it's probably not much use either. The lead has gone cold. But if you respond back to them, and the great thing is when you reach out to these people, they started the process by looking at your profile, so they don't take any umbrage over doing it. But currently I get between 20 and 25% of people respond and say, yeah, I'd love to have a chat. They've looked at your profile. There could be some intent there. Why ignore it? Just a little bit of discipline. Settings. How many people go and check their settings from time to time? No, not many people. When you go at the top and you press that button that says me and you go down and it says view your own profile, just go down a couple more and it says settings. Go into your settings. and have a look around there. One setting I definitely suggest that you do look at, because I've had issues with clients recently, what email addresses have you got associated with your account? The likelihood is that you set up your account 10, 15 years ago, you probably don't have access to that email address anymore. And if LinkedIn has a hiccup, and by God it does from time to time, and says, oh, could you sign back in with the email address that you've not got access to? Guess what? You're locked out. So any email addresses in there that are not right, get rid of them. Also in there, you have the ability to add your phone number. I am fed up looking for people's phone numbers in the contact section. Do they not want to be contacted? And I know some people don't, that's fair enough. But it's just a game of looking through them. Have a look at the settings, see what you can find. Profile viewing options. Another one that's definitely worth looking at, because if you do go and look at who's viewed my profile, you've got that really annoying anonymous LinkedIn member. And you're going, who's looked at my profile now? You don't know. Well, they've gone into settings and they've gone down and they've clicked that. And they're being a little bit furtive. I strongly suggest, if you're doing some market research on a direct competitor and you don't want them to know, that's a very valid reason to do it. While you're in that particular mode, it turns off a lot of the functionality on other things. So when you do, come back out of it. But that's where that's coming from. Yeah, connection requests, as I mentioned in that story earlier. Please personalize them. There's two reasons for this. One, far more likely to get a response. You know, someone in this room wants to connect with me, and I'll put my details up later. I was in the audience at Accountex. I've got my reason to say yes. You send it with nothing attached to it, and unfortunately, I love you all for being here. I'm not going to remember all your faces. That's if they're the same as your profile picture, so I won't know who it is. So add a 10, 15 seconds note in there. And the other reason is, when you send people connection requests and they do not respond, so they don't accept, but also they don't decline it, it sits in a cache on LinkedIn. The trouble is, this cache builds up, and it builds up, to the point where LinkedIn goes, oh, wait a second, this person's got 200 connection requests which haven't been actioned by anyone. They're spamming people. And you will find yourself put in LinkedIn jail. Anyone been in LinkedIn jail yet? Naughty man. Yeah, LinkedIn jail will basically, they take away your rights to use the platform for a short period of time. Wrap your knuckles. You continue to do it, and they will close your account. I haven't got the latest stats, but there's a stat from the first half of last year that LinkedIn closed down a few accounts. Anyone want to shout out a number of how many accounts, and it's in the millions, how many million accounts you think that LinkedIn closed down last year for doing naughty things? 8? Anyone else? 37 million people, which was about 6% of the actual overall LinkedIn world at that particular stage. Because the one thing that happened there is when any of you in this room joined LinkedIn, we had a user agreement to tick the box. Please be the first person ever to tell me that they read it. Someone in this room actually read that user agreement? Yeah, no one ever does. And the trouble is, you've now agreed to abide by their rules, and they will now use that to hit you over the head. So the two standout ones are, you shall not use third-party software. So those that are getting people to do things for them, as well, are also breaking that rule, because it also says you should not give in your login details to anyone else. It's your own personal private account. Now, yes, there are ways around that, but using the third-party software is the real big problem, and there's a blacklist. Now, I know that some people will use things like Buffer and Hootsuite, which obviously are a third-party software to schedule stuff. LinkedIn aren't, they're not getting too vicious about those. They do it in a slightly different way. They look at it and go, ha, they scheduled this, therefore I'm reducing the reach on it anyway, so no one's going to see it. So don't use scheduling tools for stuff you really want to get out there. For generic stuff, it's fine, but for stuff that's hard-hitting, it should be posted by yourself on the time it happens. Another thing that people speak to me about is Sales Navigator. Anyone in the room got Sales Navigator? Yeah, I'm sure there's a few of you in here, and it's a fantastic product, isn't it? How long did it take you to learn how to use it? Yeah, smiles. Also, how much time a day do you have to use it? How much time do you spend on it? Far too long is the face telling me there. And that's the trouble with it. It's a fantastic tool, but you need a Barry in the office. Barry, who's been trained up, spent 12 weeks learning how to use it properly, has then got 2-3 hours every day to go through and look at all the alerts and the alarms, etc. In which case, it's fantastic. It works really, really well, and it's well worth the £80 odd a month that they're going to charge you for it. But actually, there's other ways around it. The standard LinkedIn, the free version that most of us use, has got a search engine. It's at the top. So you put in the category. In this particular case, because I often ask the audience and do a live demonstration, but human resources, yeah, HR people are quite often. It'll give you this screen. You need to re-click on the people, and it will then tell you how many people in that results. In this particular case, so human resources, 13 million people. Okay. Now I normally have got the keys to my red Italian sports car in my pocket, but I came by train today, and I offer it to anyone who can go through that list for me. Unfortunately, anyone in this room who takes up that offer will be dead before the end of it. So it's not much use to us. But there are all filters, far right-hand side. They're now made it into a button. There are some filters which you can now use to turn that figure. So human resources, people. Go to the all filters, and we have first one, connections. First line, we know them. Why are we bothering? And the third line, again, we've got to go to premium for the emails, which, again, don't really work. So I tick the second line connection box. I'm in the United Kingdom, I tick that. There are about 10 filters. All in all, I choose 4, and I can guarantee that that 13 million will come down to thousands. And by the time I've tweaked it, which is probably geographical, so I might put London as the area rather than the United Kingdom, in 90 seconds I can get any of those lists from the millions down to about 50. Who here can work on a list of 50? Now you're not having me car. But yes, everyone can work on a list of 50. That's in the standard LinkedIn, it's free to use. So when you're prospecting and looking, use those filters. As I say, there's 10, I've not shown you them all, but only using 4 I can get it down really, really quickly. Some recent updates. In the messaging, on the app. Oh, actually, we mentioned this earlier, app. Talking to the lady and gentleman here earlier. Who here uses the QR code on the app? Yeah, so, you know, COVID secure world we're in. Do you want to be touching those grubby cards people are giving out? No. Go into your LinkedIn app. At the top, in the search box, there's 4 little dots. Push on that. And all of a sudden, it opens up. And you've got a QR code, which is your own personal one, and there's a scanner. Okay? Scanning the person's QR code, it takes you straight to their profile. You've not had to touch their grubby little phone or the business card. And if the name's Mark Smith, you've also found them straight away rather than going through all the thousands of Mark Smiths that are on LinkedIn. It does not connect you, but what you can do is send them a connection request. And if they're standing in front of you, again, probably a good reason that you haven't got to personalise it. But yes, that's in there. But also when you message people, you do it on the desktop, the option is text. Full stop, end of story. On the app, it's not. On the app, you've got 2 other things you can do. You can send people voice messages. There is a microphone icon on the right-hand side of the message box. Press it, and lo and behold, you can record. They change it, but it's between 60 and 75 seconds of audio to a person. Now, I don't know about you, sometimes the way people word things, I don't always understand what they mean. But when they say it, I understand it more. On the left-hand side, there's a plus button or a paperclip, depending on which phone you're using, Apple or Android. And in there, you can create a video message. Again, about a minute long. And if someone sends me a video message, I've got absolutely no doubt of what they're saying, because I can see them, I can look at their body language, etc., etc. They're also quite disruptive, because people don't use them very often. So again, something else to go and discover, really useful to do. In fact, I'll go back, because the other thing that they've done is you can now, with this symbol at the top, You can create a video meeting directly with someone. Not a video message, a video meeting. Create a video meeting. And what it does is you have three options. There's a native LinkedIn version. You can go onto Teams or you can go to Zoom. And if the person's green dot at the top, like mine is there, they're on. So they might respond straight away. You can put them straight into a meeting. Or you have the ability to schedule a meeting as well. So if they're first-line connections, and maybe they're a prospect as a first-line connection, what's better than sending a nice video message? It's going to be completely something they've probably never seen before and quite disruptive. Yeah, it will get their attention, that's for certain. Another really useful thing, in the feed, everyone's feed, every single thing in your feed has got three little dots at the top right of any particular item you're looking at. If you click on it, and then it goes onto this screen, you have the ability to save any item in your feed now, because I can tell you now, if you want to go back later on and try and find it, that's a struggle. But by doing this, pushing those buttons, pushing the save button, it sticks it in here. It sticks it in the home page, left-hand side, my items, and save posts. Click on there, and you're straight into all of those. When you finish with the one that you just looked at, don't want to keep it, the top three dots now become very American. They're an unsave option. Delete, basically. But that means you can now, if we're here at the moment in time and something comes from your feed but you want to pay attention to me, you can save it and look at it later. I think it's really, really useful. One of the biggest updates this year, it's one of the smallest updates this year. On your first line connections, top right hand side underneath their banner, there's a bell arrived. It will be an outline initially. You've probably not even noticed it. But if you click on that bell, it turns into solid. Why would you bother? Well, when you do, you will see, you'll get notifications from every single post that that person puts out there. So if you're following someone, you're interested in someone, what they're saying, etc., you will get notifications saying that that person has posted. Really, really, it used properly, that really, really works really, really well. So the last few things, when you go in there and look at your analytics, it used to be called your dashboard. Don't ask me where they put it today because they change it every time I look at the screen. Well, you've got some analytics in there. Who's viewed your profile, post views, which is now called impressions, and search appearances. Just go and have a look and see how effective your LinkedIn profile is. How many times are you being found a week in searches? If you click on that number, it opens up into a new page. New page tells you that every Thursday in the UK, yeah, they update it. They will give you 3 or 4 companies that have done a search that have found you, so that's useful for you. The bit below it I think is even more useful. It gives you the top 5 job titles of the people that did the search. So if they're an ideal fit for you, all's well and good. But it's a very good barometer of how your profile is currently doing. So you want to find out more? Yep, I have one-to-one services and do a masterclass, and yes, there's a deliberate reason I use the Tony K Silver, because that makes me very exclusive on LinkedIn. I'm the only one. So we've got a few minutes left, I believe. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left. Open for questions. Anybody got any questions? The company page. Okay, yeah, the company page. Now, LinkedIn was set up to be a personal, professional platform. The company page is a bit of an afterthought, and it doesn't currently work that well. They are trying to improve it all the time. They're adding more to it. But the big defining matter is that all the reports that I get about how the algorithm's affecting it, when you post from your own personal profile, LinkedIn will send it to 10% of your connections initially for them to have a look at it and see what they do with it in the 2 golden hours. There is currently, but that might change again. On your company page, it goes to 3% of the followers. So unless your company page has got tens of thousands of followers, not many people are seeing it. So it's, yeah, and if we do post on your company page, make sure that you share it through the individuals as well to try and give it some sort of reach. Does that answer your question, sir? Anyone else?
In a message, and I just hit accept, but what does that do?
Okay, well, a lot of people adopted what they call creator mode. It was something that came out last year, and it rearranges it. So if you've ever gone on someone's profile and you see that little funky video behind their head, and their profile is slightly different, the followers are up there and some hashtags and all that. The default on that when you land on their profile is follow. It doesn't give you the option to connect. It does, but they don't know where it is. So they just go follow. And then they ask people to follow. All it means is that when you follow someone, you will get some of their posts sent to you. It's about 20% different. Well, it's about 20% if it was a connection. So the followers only get about 20% of my stuff. My connections get all of it. So that's what's happening there. Nothing else? Okay. Well, thank you very much. As I say, if you want to connect and learn a bit more, don't forget to personalise that request, and I'll be more than happy to engage with you. Thank you very much.